We try hard, that's for
I'm
sure.
glad you understand that.
Can you guys see that okay?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
That's better. These old eyes.
Yeah, I went to print it all out today and I ran out of paper. It's 73-page agenda and it stopped printing just a moment ago. I said, really? Thank you, computer. I appreciate that.
Well,
I did
what
get
we'll
some of it
do,
out.
we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order because it is 4:30. If there's no objection, we'll dispense again with the minutes until we are able to meet together at City Hall, and then we'll have to. It'll probably take us, I don't know, 45 seconds or so to approve all the minutes, but on a rule of procedure. But we'll go ahead with that when the time is appropriate. Tonight's meeting, I'll have a little bit of good news. If they come by in our committee and want to speak, really there's not much to speak about. We have pulled the Kozloff property issue. The county has taken, and John Isbell's office has taken that issue up for us. But I firmly believe that we really had, as far as the city standpoint, my position would probably more than likely be yours as well, as we didn't have really a dog in that fight. We wanted to try to help them because they are taxpayers of the city. And we were just there to merely try to work out an agreement between the two parties. But now, since John, our tax assessor, Mr. Isbell, has taken up the fight, with those folks, it has now been transferred to the county. So I'm kind of glad about that in a way, because I felt uncomfortable even getting involved in it, but they were, they do pay taxes, so we had to. All right, so we've done 1 and 2, and now we're ready for 2. We're going to go ahead with the stormwater ordinance. Marshall.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, this is the stormwater ordinance. I believe we've had this on the agenda before and haven't had time to get to it. But with me tonight is Ms. Helen Morrison. She's our stormwater coordinator with the city. And if there's any questions I'm not able to answer, she's more technically adept at all this information than I am, and we'll be able to jump in and kind of help with that. But let me scroll to the right page. And what we have before you is our stormwater ordinance. It starts with chapter 2, land disturbance regulations, and we've tried to. What we've included here is merely a kind of an overview of the changes. You can see like the red text, but I'd be happy to certainly answer any questions you have about this. And there's also, as a part of this, Alderman Robertson has included some verbiage to form an appeals committee. And that serves kind of multiple purposes, but there's also language in this ordinance that pertains to that. And at this time, I can certainly let you ask questions, or if Helen wants to add anything, she's more than welcome to. And this is all related to TDEC and the regulations that TDEC kind of puts down to cities as a part of our MS4 permit. And they give cities requirements they have to meet, and this is our attempt to meet those requirements.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
The modifications to this program that we have, do they bring us in compliance, or has John Bradley, our legal advisor, told us that yes, this keeps us within those legal parameters, or does it move us away from some of the issues that we maybe shouldn't be involved with? Exactly what are these changes related to the original stormwater utility moving forward to this new adjusted version here? I just want to get the pluses and minuses of those changes, if you don't mind. And I just want to make sure our legal is aware of these changes, and that we are in compliance with the state and federal government with these changes.
Yes, and I may allow Helen to kind of jump in and answer that. To answer one of your parts of your question, and John Bradley has not, I don't know that he's gone through word for word and looked at it yet. But that is certainly part of the plan to have him review this before it's fully adopted. But I'm going to let Helen kind of jump in and maybe answer the other part of your question, Pat.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So obviously, the most recent meeting we've had with TDEC was August of 2019. I just want to make sure you can hear me well.
You're coming in loud and clear. Great.
Okay,
You're perfect.
just make sure. And it was basically they came in and at different parts of the permit cycle, which each permit cycle is a 5-year period. This most recent permit cycle started in 2016. So what they do throughout that permit cycle, they'll look at one of your minimum control measures specifically. We have 6 of them that we have to comply with. What they'll do is look at one of those minimum control measures very closely. And this time they did our construction site runoff program. So for that, that's basically people coming in, obtaining a land disturbance permit. And, we have to meet all the requirements in that measure under the MS4 permit. So they came in, took a look at our program and said, these are some areas where, just very specific areas where the ordinance needs to be brought up to date to comply with TDEC's most current permit and the most current construction general permit. And so sometimes it can get a little confusing, but the city of Hendersonville has to comply with the state's MS4 permit. So we have to obtain our own permit, but we also have to oversee the construction in our city. And all of those contractors in the city have to obtain a construction general permit from TDEC. So you kind of see like there's multiple levels there to try and make sure that these guys are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So obviously we completed a review of the ordinance and TDEC read through it and they said, these are the areas where you need to just kind of make some changes to bring it up to compliance with our general permit and then our MS4 permit that we're supposed to be following. And so it's already been sent to TDEC for review. I got an email from our contact there. I believe it was on Monday, Marshall, I think. And she said they reviewed it. Everything looks good. It's bringing us up to where we've addressed the comments that they had from our visit this past August in 2019.
Good. I appreciate the update.
Helen, this is Eddie.
Uh-huh.
Part of the notice that TDEC gave us was the need for an appeals board. Is that correct?
I believe they mentioned, having the ability to administer penalties. And part of the ability to do that is you have to have an appeals board in place for when you start administering those penalties. By law, by Tennessee state law, we're required to have that when we proceed with administering penalties for violations.
Yeah, that's part of the due process
Right.
requirements of the Administrative Procedure Act.
Mhm.
So did they look at the proposal, the straw man that I had proposed? Did they have any comments on that format for an appeals board?
And I didn't send them that verbiage because they were purely looking at their TDEC required changes. And I think it was something that we had discussed previously as far as they're not so much concerned with kind of our structure and how we administer that component. It's more or less that we have it in place and abide by the law and have the ability to do it. That's, I think, I'm trying to remember the timeline there of when it got sent, but I just sent them purely what they had commented on as far as updates.
Okay, so since we don't have an appeals board, how are contractors or citizens that want to appeal some decision of the stormwater regulations, how do they appeal those at the present time?
So like for design components or like utility fees? There's kind of a couple different, like So the thing, okay, so you're looking at three things, I guess, like post-construction requirements, like design or plan, like, plans, procedures, or if we say like we're issuing a notice of violation for this, if you don't comply, we're going to either hold codes or shut the site down or whatever. You're talking about that specifically for construction.
Yeah, I'm talking about all of them, all of the avenues when there is somebody that wants to appeal a decision by the staff. At the present time, we don't have any appeals process, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So Marshall, how do we move forward? Does this have to go in a ordinance or a resolution to the whole board?
It'll have to be an ordinance. So obviously, committee is the first step of that process, and then we'll go through two readings at BOMA. And so from here in 2 weeks, it'll just move on to BOMA at the normally scheduled meeting.
Thank you.
Mr. Campbell, do you have anything at this time?
No, sir. I just know we've talked about it, and the appeals board was actually part of the original
Yes.
stormwater utility that we had set up, and it's just taken a while to get that part of it operational, I guess is a good way to put it. But I do know that was included in the original verbiage of our stormwater utility.
It was, because I specifically really remember that.
Yes, sir. I know that
all
there's been
right.
discussion through other aldermen regarding this particular issue. So
Well,
let's move forward with it. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Now, Helen, let me ask you something. Basically, do you think, and based upon your opinion, and you're speaking with TDEC, they just wanted to make sure that their language was included in this ordinance still. Is that correct?
Yes,
Are there revised?
right. So obviously they make changes for each permit cycle, and you have a certain amount of time frame to kind of bring your ordinance up to date. Now, there's some details that can come into play, like our most recent permit, the post-construction component was appealed by the Home Builders Association. So obviously, while they're appealing that whole component of the MS4 permit, we're kind of left in limbo of like, okay, well, we can't adopt the verbiage of this new permit, so we have to fall back on the old verbiage. And so, right now that's fine. It's not that big of an issue, but obviously we're looking towards the new permit. So once the new permit comes out in 2021, barring any appeals, we'll have some language to look at and maybe some new requirements that we have to incorporate, via another ordinance change, and typically it's not very large changes, but sometimes it can be. It's really just the big thing, is you have a lot of people that are buying into this and have to meet those requirements, and it costs a lot of money a lot of times. And so they have a vested interest and want to make sure that things are being done and are, I think, fair and equitable across the board. So.
Okay. And my final I'm sorry, Mr. Campbell, go ahead now, because mine is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just want to ask the appeals board, is it going to be set up similar to the Municipal Board of Zoning Appeals? Or will they meet once a month if they have anything on their agenda? If not, they push it off to the next month, made up of citizens, liaison, and then one of our staff is the person who helps lead a particular meeting. Curious how this one would be set up.
I believe they're mayor appointees.
Okay.
And then
Are all of them mayor appointees, or can some of them be alderman appointees? Do they have to be mayor appointees?
No, they could. I think it's up to the board to decide how this is made up. I put forward a proposal, Pat,
Yes,
just
sir.
as a straw man.
Sure.
What I looked at was that there would be 3 members of this board, that they would be appointed by the mayor, about like a cabinet position that the president does, but they have to be confirmed by BOMA.
Do you think 3 is enough? Do you think
That
we
kind
have
of gives
have 5?
BOMA or the alderman. Well, I recommended 3 because I've been on a state board with 3 commissioners, and to me, just 3 works better. The more you get on there, the sometimes the more difficult it is to get things done And I put down also, since they're going to require training, MTAS has some training for this board.
Yes, sir.
I came forward with a proposal that we actually compensate them out of the stormwater fee.
Okay.
And that this board would hear all of the 3 types of complaints.
Okay.
And so I put forward the proposal I sent to you that you can look at. And I mean, that's just my thoughts. You know, whatever all of us want to do, I'm fine with. But I do think we need to move forward on this because as a result of not having a board,
Sure.
the staff cannot issue fines.
Yes, sir. And I that's why I draw back to the Municipal Board of Zoning Appeals. I know that they've got 5 members on that board, and like I said, they use staff to help give guidance because it is legal issues that are being dealt with and ordinances through the Municipal Board of Zoning Appeals, and that's why I was just asking those questions regarding that one. But 3, 5, I'm sure there's a good number there. We'll figure it out between now and whenever we vote on this or hammer it all out. But yes, sir. I appreciate moving this forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much for both. Let's go ahead and move on to the, we've already discussed the appeals board a little bit. What else do you have on this, Marshall?
That's really it. Just to, I guess, offer maybe a recommendation to move on to BOMA. The next
Oh, okay. Do we, I mean, it's strictly okay with me. I'm not asking this for argumentative purposes or discussion or anything like that. But my question is this something we really need to vote on tonight? I mean, I'm prepared. I'm sure all the other aldermen are too, to prepared to vote on this tonight. And if so, which like I said, it's cool with me. We need to really discuss the 3 versus 5 committee membership.
I would like to move it forward for discussion purposes to BOMA after that we're comfortable with,
Okay, all right.
And I would hope that once we all get comfortable, that we can all 3 be sponsors of this to BOMA.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a good
I'm
idea, actually.
Perfectly fine with moving this to BOMA. I agree 100%.
Yeah, because we, it shows unity in it, that we're united about it. And it is a very, very important, it's probably one of the most quiet, but most important ordinances we've got in the city of Hendersonville, believe it or not. So, yes, sir, Mr. Campbell.
Mr. Chairman, do we know of in the past how many, if we would have had this in place, how many appeals we possibly would have been looking at through up to this point through our stormwater ordinance? Do we have an idea? Do we know if there were a handful of property owners who wanted to say, "Hey, I live on the lake, I shouldn't pay any fee at all," or I'm XYZ?
I don't think it.
I didn't know if we've had anybody.
Marshall, has anybody even asked about that yet?
I know in speaking with finance, I know there's several hundred residents that pay a modified rate
Right.
that live on the lake. And I think that was set up, several years ago before,
Right.
and I was in the position I am now. But I think that there obviously would have been a potential to hear appeals from that avenue. The avenue that Helen mentioned through construction, obviously we don't have a mechanism. We don't have any sort of matrix or a mechanism to apply penalties to contractors. So it's hard to kind of figure out how much we would, what there would have been as far as appeals, because it doesn't, that really didn't exist. But I imagine.
That's a good question, Pat. So the answer is probably not. We don't know.
Well, I was just curious. I was just curious if we had an idea, because I was just curious if 3 people on a board that size would be able to hear all the appeals that might come their way. I mean, they could be busy for a while if just, once this gets up and functioning. So.
Well, something else too I'd like to mention is regarding the stormwater utility. I'm currently working with staff to figure out a way to moving forward where we reduce the number of. We kind of look at those modifications that were made in the past to those residents that live on the lake, And it may reduce the amount of appeals that we would potentially have through that process.
Okay.
We're looking at that now to try to figure out the best way to move forward. But hopefully the decision we go with will reduce the number of appeals.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Marshall. The only thing I guess we're looking at is the, do you all want to keep it at 3? I'm okay with it keeping it 3.
For now, I am. I mean, if we find out that we need to adjust it, then we need to adjust it. But for starting off, I mean, 3's fine with me.
And you agree with that, Eddie?
Yeah, like I say, I just put forward a proposal, and since this busy, I do agree with Pat that this board is going to be busy. And that's why I wanted to put in some compensation for them, like the Planning Commission has.
Mhm.
But I'm not married to 3 or 5. If y'all
Okay.
feel better with 5, I'm happy with whatever y'all decide.
I think
All
that
right.
might be something that Bowman gets into discussing. It's one of those.
Yeah, once we have passed it on, they might want to have a discussion over that.
But
So-
I will point out, Helen did mention to me this afternoon that the members that we that are selected for this board or this appeal board, there is training
Yes.
that they will require to have. And I can't remember the number of hours per year, but there is training that is needed.
just like planning and also the municipal board of zoning appeals, they have
Right,
to attend
very
meetings.
very similar. Yeah,
I've
very
attended those meetings as well. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So
All right,
whatever we decide, Mr. Chairman, tonight, I would like to make a motion that we move this forward pending the review and approval by John Bradley.
Okay.
I second that motion.
Okay.
I guess we need to put it in is it an ordinance or resolution, Mr. Chairman?
It's an ordinance.
Well, it would, since it's dealing with some form of money, it'd have to be an ordinance.
Okay.
So hold on just a second here. Let me write just this one down right quick about John. Couldn't think of John's name. Pending approval. Okay. Before we, and please don't take this any way than what it is, but I'm gonna, for just about 30 or 40 seconds, Eddie, I'm gonna, would you take back your motion for just a second?
Yes, I will.
Okay, and how about your second?
I will draw my second. Thank you.
Because I wasn't gonna be mean and say I wasn't gonna recognize it so we could talk about it a little more, because I don't play those kind of games, but I know we've had some in the past that have done things like that, but I don't do that. Thank you for doing that, Eddie. A couple of things. One, do we, Marshall, to make it all good and go away from us tonight and get it up to make an announcement tonight at the board, where do we need to add about the committee? Or is it in there and I'm just not seeing it?
It's a part of the ordinance. It's attached.
Okay.
It's attached to it. I think with it being a part of it, I think we can maybe just take what's before you and send that to.
Okay, and send it on. Okay, now, Eddie, could you repeat your motion again one more time since we're going to vote on it right now?
I move that we recommend to BOMA the staff edits on the ordinance, stormwater ordinance, pending the review and approval by City Attorney Mr. Bradley.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, there's been a motion. There's been a proper motion and a proper second. Any discussion? What we'll do tonight under reports, we'll just make the announcement, Eddie, and let them know that it's going to probably be on the next, I guess, what, Marshall, the next agenda?
Yes. Yeah.
We'll get it on the next agenda for the Board of Aldermen and get their input, because I'm sure a couple of weeks John will be able to take care of it.
And Mr. Chairman, you might want to mention in your remarks tonight that any other alderman that would like to sign on supporting this or moving this ordinance, because I've had at least two, Alderman Hayes and Alderman Petrelli, stated that they wanted to co-sponsor this legislation. So you might want to just offer if they would like to sign on to it.
All right. Okay, we will do that. I've written it down. And if I forget that for some reason, Pat or Eddie both, just remind me. Just, I've written it down, but I might, who knows? You know what I mean? I might forget it. You know how my mind gets sometimes, because we have so much going on, but I've written it down, and I'll be glad to do that. That's fine. Let's see. Okay. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Does anybody need the motion repeated? Hearing none. Is everybody ready to vote? Okay, all in favor of the motion for this to be placed in the ordinance, signify by saying aye when I call the roll. Alderman Campbell,
Aye.
Alderman Roberson, and the chair votes aye itself. It passes unanimously to go to have it placed on next month's agenda for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So that is good. We've been working on this a long time. And we're going to now, what is the third item on the agenda there, Marshall?
It is, let me go back to the beginning. Hang on a second.
Okay, not a problem.
The-
Helen, did that help you any in what you need
Thank you,
for us to
Helen.
do?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome. Now the world famous neighborhood traffic calming program.
And this is something Miss Sarah Locke, our traffic engineer, has taken before the Traffic and Parking Committee. They've kind of developed this, taken before the committee, get their blessing.
Right.
Let me fast forward to the page it's on. But they get a lot of requests, for traffic calming, and so they attempted to formulate a policy to help guide the decision-making process. And what you have before you is that process, the formalization of that process. And it's been obviously to the traffic and parking after staff developed it, and now we're bringing it before you to of course, obviously your review, ask questions. If we need to make some tweaks to it, we'd be certainly happy to do that. And this is modeled after, there's some surrounding cities near us that this was modeled after. Not exactly the same, but similar.
Okay. Has everybody read this?
And if we need to, I failed to get Sarah to join the call, but if it'd be easier, I'd be the next meeting I can get her to join and maybe ask answer more specific questions, or if you felt comfortable with it, we could move it through. I don't think this is I don't believe this is an ordinance.
I was trying to look and see.
Well, it's I guess a recommendation to BOMA. So I think it's more of a just to simply move it forward to BOMA for them to review.
Yeah, let us, if there's no objection from the committee, let's go ahead and let us take a look at that and make sure that it meets our criteria. I know that Pat and myself, I don't know if it happened in Ward 6 or not, but Pat and myself had this kind of issue that was in both our wards.
Yes.
And I know Pat tried to help those guys out. Are they, how's it going, Pat? Are they resolved or?
No, sir. It's just one of those things that we're still working on it. So.
All right. Well, I was hoping it was the opposite, but I'm sorry. I know we tried very hard, and I know you did. I'm very pleased with your efforts there that they had done that. So mine, on the other hand, it solved the problem. So I was just very grateful to the people there at the time when that happened, that we got it taken care of. So we'll see, we'll see. But yeah, let us just, if there's no objection, Eddie and Pat both, let us look at it one more time. Because I was reading some of the jargon that I was not familiar with, and I was going like, where did that come from? And I might have missed it, don't know. So we'll take a look at it and just put it on the agenda, Marshall, if there's no objection for next month.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. Let me go back. And then they and Sarah also, as a part of that committee, Sarah included the agenda minutes. Again, just for your information, only if you wanted to review that. There's nothing to vote on. It was just part of the packet.
Okay.
That was item 4 on the agenda. Item.
Okay. Yeah, we'll take a look at all of it. Just that's not a problem. Okay. Let's see here.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
May I make a comment here to Marshall?
Sure.
Marshall, I want to commend Sarah. We've had some traffic issues in Ward 6, and her professionalism and efficiency in dealing with those is greatly appreciated. So I just wanted to give a kudo, appreciation to her. If you'd pass that along to her, that
I'll let her
appreciate her professionalism. She's one of our best.
She is.
Amen, brother.
I agree.
All right. Listen, she's, all those cats that live in public works, man. Y'all are awesome. I'm very proud to be in the committee that represents you guys. You do wonderful work, and you save a lot of, what's the nice word? I'm not going to use the word that I would use because it is an election year. So I have to be on my P's and Q's for everybody, not just for me, but for all of us. But you guys are able to keep our rears from getting chewed sometimes. And we appreciate it because it gets chewed more than we like. But so I do want to be sure to pass that along, and we all agree about it.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to just point out, I think a lot of the traffic and parking issues, a lot of people don't realize we have state rules and regulations we have to follow too. When we start talking about putting up a stop sign or a speed hump or something along those lines, plus work with the safety staff, fire trucks and garbage trucks and issues such as this rolling down the road through neighborhoods. There's a lot more than just, and we're going to do that tomorrow.
Yeah, actually,
tomorrow it has to go through a process, warrant studies and everything else.
Well, here's the thing too, and I was going to alert you guys tonight under other agenda items when we get that far. We even had one, and believe it or not, which we very seldom have these kind of issues, but we had one. I had a guy get in touch with me about a sign wanting to be placed, a no parking sign in Walton Trace subdivision, which shocked me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, man, I'll come down there and look at it. And I did. And he's got their homeowners association's got a valid point, but we'll get to that if we get it, if we have time.
Ward 2, yes, sir.
Oh, is that
yeah.
Is Walnut Trace, is that part of that in Ward 2 as well?
Yes, sir. It's across the street. If you're going down Walton Ferry on the left-hand side. Yes, sir. That's Ward 2.
Well, I'll be. All right. Let's see here.
The next item on the agenda is number 5, the paving and Hidden Point subdivision.
The Hidden Point stuff. Go ahead with that.
I was gonna say, it's been on the agenda a couple times before, and we just haven't had time to get to it. But if you remember, several months ago, the HOA from Hidden Point got together and submitted a petition, for their neighborhood streets to be paved, and
right.
Obviously, as a result of that, I distributed that petition to the committee, and of course, obviously added it to the agenda for discussion. But just to kind of recap, I think what I said in my email is, we currently do not have Hidden Point on our paving list for this next year, fiscal year. And obviously we're, continue to look at it and evaluate it, but it just didn't, compared to the other roads we have in our city in our evaluation, it did not meet their criteria to be put on that list. Now in future years, obviously it may be, but But currently in this next year, it will not be paved unless obviously some other action takes place. But right now it is not on the list.
All right. Alderman Campbell, did you have something? Yes,
I
sir.
just want to ask, how many, what's the distance of paving for Hidden Point subdivision?
How many, like
What's the distance? Like, is it a half a mile, mile and a half once you do everything? Are we talking about paving the entire subdivision once?
I believe it was an entire subdivision.
It
I
was.
mean,
They came.
Now, if we're doing that now, I'm gonna have to say, let's back up and let's pave the entire Saunders Ferry Road, put some shoulders and guardrails down it. Because I have people every day asking me about when is Saunders Ferry Road going to be taken care of. And it's a highly traveled road. Anybody living on this peninsula, from, Ward 1 and 2, can travel that road. It's a dangerous road and needs to be paved. I know we had approximately a mile of paving
Yes.
scheduled for it.
Yeah, you're
I would like to see a little bit more than a mile. I'll be honest with you. 2 miles of it be great.
Yeah, we have, just to let you know, Pat and the committee, we're looking at doing, Sanders Ferry. There's a group of 5 projects over the next, several months that we're going to try to get that road in that first group of projects to be paved. It's in the
On
top
the lane to Gates. Yes, sir.
Right. It's in the top 5, our top 5 list, I guess, our short list of projects. And so we're going to look and trying to get that scheduled in the fall of this year, if possible.
Yes, sir. And I understand turning in petitions to have things done, and I can appreciate that. But like you said, we have other streets and neighborhoods that maybe don't have an HOA to back them up, but they're still
Right.
citizens and taxpayers of our community. And I appreciate you being straight up and saying we have others that are in much more in worse shape than that particular subdivision at this time. And I'm not taking away from their issues. I understand they have some roads they want to have paved. We have them across the city that need to be paved. So I just appreciate you looking at the wear and tear on the road and continuing to move forward with the roads that really need to be jumped on first. Thank you.
All right, moving right along, we've got the ordinance up that is an ordinance amending the budget ordinance by accepting and appropriating sponsorship funds.
moved.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Is there anyone here that's here to,
I think Andy, I
Is-
think Andy's.
Andy Gilly here?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Go for it, brother.
This is just basically a housekeeping. We've got some events coming up that are gonna bring in funds that are supposed to be dedicated to Mary's Magical Place Maintenance Fund. And
Okay.
Robert Manning and I, Miss Franklin worked together to get this together where we could do one ordinance to do it all at once instead of 4 separate ordinances for 4 separate events.
All right, Andy, does this go to finance as well?
It'll be on finance tonight and BOMA in 2 weeks, or
Okay,
whenever the next meeting is.
all right. Is any further discussion by the committee? All right, we've had a proper motion, hearing none. We've had a proper motion, a proper second on this ordinance, 2020. Yeah, that's right. I thought I might put too many 20s.
It's 2020.
Yeah, there it is, 2028. And if there's no other discussion, everybody's ready to vote. Does anybody need the motion repeated? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye when the roll is called and you hear your name. Alderman Campbell,
Aye.
Alderman Roberson,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye as well. It passes unanimously. Hold on just a second, Pat. It passes unanimously on to finance and the Board of Aldermen. Yes, sir, Mr. Campbell.
Steve Brown has had his hand up. I just clicked over to participate.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to let you know that in case he was wanting to press something there. I don't see him on my screen here, screen sharing thing, but I see his hand up when I went back to the participants and it says his hand is up. So I just thought I would.
I did not even see him with his hand, actually.
I
In fact,
understand. I understand. That's
Alderman Brown, are you here?
I am.
Yes, sir. We recognize you. Go ahead. I'm sorry that if you've been
Yeah.
holding your hand up.
I'm only here to speak just a moment on 5, which you've already passed. The Hidden
Well, you
Point.
can go ahead with it.
And I'll take just a couple minutes.
Sure.
Of course, that's in Ward 4. Of course, I want to advocate for those streets to get paved, me and Mr. Bolt, as much as we possibly can. And the reason I jumped in is I explained to folks out there that we're kind of going through the list, and where Hidden Point is right now, we don't have on the list, which we have it on the list, but it's put out probably at least for another year or so.
Right.
But I received an email earlier today from their HOA president stating to me that she understood there was going to be some added extra money to the paving fund, and was curious about where that money could be used at Hidden Point. I told her at that time I did not know of any extra money. So if there is going to be any added money to the paving fund, I want to advocate for that money to be used in Hidden Point. If there's not, then that's fine also. So I guess my question is there some added money out there that we don't know about? I'm not sure where she got her information. So
I don't know.
Well, we haven't got to it yet on the agenda, but there is an appropriation down on the agenda that takes care of the money from Anderson Park. And when we get to that point, I'll be happy to explain that in a little more detail, kind of how that money could be spent.
Okay. So I hate to do this to you, Brother Brown, but you might have to stick with us for a little bit and let us get down there.
I'll stick with you for a little while. Then I've got to
Okay, man.
prepare for the other meeting that I want to go to. But I'm curious how a homeowner, an HOA president, would be having information about added money when her aldermen do not have that. So
Hey, listen, I've had I agree with you. It didn't come from any of us. I can assure you that. I can assure you of that, definitely.
I
So
don't know where that's on your list, but that's all I wanted to talk about was if there is some
okay,
added money, I'd like to get at it. And, if you
yeah.
move that up, I'd appreciate it because I do have to leave here and get home. So
Okay, let us, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's get down there. If there's no objection from the committee, we can move down on up since we're discussing it.
It's item 12.
It's item 12. Yes, item 12. Steve, we're going to go ahead and talk about it now. An ordinance appropriating the funds from Anderson
Mark.
Park.
I appreciate that.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I get home and eat a bite. So.
There you go. That's the spirit. We're going to go ahead and discuss that. So Marshall, you want to go ahead and talk about the ordinance appropriating the funds?
I will. As you remember, the approval of Anderson Park, there was a cost of a payment, sort of like a payment in lieu for offsite improvements as a part of that development. And it was broken into two parts. The first part was the payment you have before you, the 288, which we received a few weeks ago. And then the second part of that is the per lot fees the builders pay as they build a house. And so, one is a lump sum payment that we have now, and the
Right.
second is the one we accrue over time. And so we've got the money. The check was given to us, and now we have to go through the process to appropriate that money. I know there was a lot of discussion about where that money would go back when Anderson Park was approved. But what I was going to explain tonight was in speaking with staff and our consultant engineers, we have determined offsite improvements along Anderson that can be made with that money. And not that it has to be made with that money, but that obviously that it would kind of make a connection, for the development to Anderson in the form of a turn lane at that intersection as it approaches Main Street. If you can remember now that there is a small right turn lane as you're approaching Main Street on Anderson, the improvements that we've identified would extend that back 700 feet back along Main Street to allow the proper amount of storage. There would be street lights that would be installed along Anderson, because if you can remember, there's no Right now, we have no street lights along Anderson. It's similar to other streets like Maple or Indian Lake. They don't have any lights along that portion of Anderson. It's not until you get back towards the chop house of Anderson is where the street lights pick up. And so there's some things that are deficient, and we would try to use that money wisely in addressing those concerns. But that, again, that's certainly not set in stone, but that would be a recommendation from staff to move forward with that, if it's okay with the committee in Bowman.
Do we know what the cost would be with the Hidden Lake?
I don't know that, I don't think we've estimated that yet, but we certainly can, and can bring that back before committee. But I don't think there's an estimate that has been done to know the entire cost of paving that subdivision.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I do think that the improvements on Anderson are a good idea because of the Vanderbilt
Yes.
medical clinic there, and with Anderson Park, everybody complains, or a lot of people complain, that we wait until the problems develop with development before we make improvements. So I would like to see an estimate of the cost for Anderson to kind of upgrade that. I think that makes more sense. And as far as the other subdivisions, Mr. Chairman, all of us in each ward has a subdivision or has streets that need to be repaired. I'm not in favor of bumping up Hidden Point over, say, Glen Oaks. Mr. Waters and I get complaints every week on Glen Oaks. The streets are just horrible there. So I think we're going to have to rely on the staff without any pressure being put on them to evaluate those projects. And maybe what you want to do, Marshall, you want to ask each alderman some of those projects that need to be evaluated.
Yeah.
But I want you and your staff to make the professional
Amen, brother.
evaluation of where that money needs to be spent. And I don't want to have to get in a political lobbying campaign to get Glen Oaks over Hidden Point. I know Hidden Point needs it. Everybody, we all have those situations. So that's all I wanted to say about that.
And there's one thing I wanted to point out too, I failed to mention earlier, is the Vanderbilt facility also provided a payment in lieu of approximately $50,000 for their frontage. And so not only do we have the 288, but there's going to be another appropriation made next month for the $50,000 from Vanderbilt to go along with that.
All right. Well, I don't think there's going to be any. I would say, oh yes, Mr. Campbell, Alderman Campbell.
I'm just in agreement with Alderman Robertson about the Anderson Road project right there, that go ahead and let's widen it prior to Anderson, the housing project coming in there and Vanderbilt being open. I think that I know that was on the books to do that in road improvements right there eventually someday when the property sold. Well, the property sold, it's moving forward. So I would agree. Let's move that project forward and put street lights down through there if at all possible. And the extra 50,000 from Vanderbilt helps move that along. And if we were going to start talking about road projects, I was going to say, hey, let's just tack on the asphalt right there at the gates and go right on down to Drake's Creek Marina and on Saunders Ferry and take care of wards 1 and 2 at the same time, because Saunders Ferry could be taken care of from Curtis Crossroads all the way out to Main Street if we wanted to get technical about it. So anyways, that's just my.
Mark, Alderman Brown has his hand up again.
Yes, sir. I see it. On here, and I was gonna, by the rules of this procedure, we got to let everybody in the committee speak, and then after they have spoken, then the chair will recognize other audience members, and that is Alderman Steve Brown. So, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a lot to add to that. I appreciate you, first of all, hearing me and dropping down to, I believe, item number 12 there.
Sure.
I don't know that I disagree with you so much. The only thing I do know is that good aldermen advocate for their ward. I think probably, I don't want to necessarily ask that, but I'm going to try to be a good alderman and advocate as much as I can for Hidden Point. I know we personally, I believe, and I think a lot of people would agree with me, we stepped away from our $250,000 study that we did about 2 years ago. Marshall, you can shake your head this way if you want to, but we paved Indian Lake Road. Indian Lake Road was below Hidden Point. So we have stepped away from that study and went back to somewhat of the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So I'm just squeaking on behalf of those people that live in Hidden Point. I don't necessarily want to get, if we can get that money, I'd gladly take it. If we can't, then that's fine. But I think we advocate for what we can get. And like I said, I was unaware that this money was going to open up. But the people in Hidden Point certainly found out from somebody and sent me an email, which is fine. And I've already answered that email that I had no clue that we had any extra money coming. So that being said, I'm glad to see we're going to do $288,000 of paving somewhere.
I think we all are.
We'll end up discussing exactly where that's going to be at, but I'll take $288,000 every month we can get it and appropriate it somewhere, and eventually we'd be caught up. But anyway, I appreciate your time. I'm going to leave the Samaritan Center and go home and try to get a bite to eat so we can I can see your all smiling faces here again in just a little while. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. And we're still going to go ahead and Marshall and get a price on that, because I would be curious as to what that price is for Hidden Lake.
I would agree,
No.
Chairman.
I know I will say this, and I'll always defend this committee. We've been accused of a lot of things, but we've always tried to help where paving is done. We've always tried to get the money. So, sometimes we can get it, and sometimes we can make it work, and then sometimes it's impossible. So just hang in there, and we'll continue to catch a lot of the blame, but that's okay, because we know in our hearts and our minds where what we're doing is right for the city. And but we'll go ahead and do that for Hidden Lake and make sure. I'd like to find out where they found that out, but I'm not going to just go down there and knock on their door and say, "Where did you find that out?" I mean,
Chairman Skidmore.
Yes.
I let them know that. I saw it on the Public Works Committee agenda and on the Finance Committee agenda. I was the one who did that.
Okay.
It's been available to all of us since Friday, and so I let the HOA president know that.
Well, all right. Well, thank you for your honesty and forwardness and letting us know where it came from. Because sometimes, we get in these committees or a lot of the homeowners, and they'll hear something, whether it be on Facebook or just by word of mouth, and I'll say, "Well, where in the world did you hear something like that?" And it just rolls, it's like that old saying where one person can say something and it goes all the way down the line, and by the end person, it's completely different than the first one says. So I appreciate your honesty and forwardness with us on that. And so that's where it came from. And you're exactly right. If that was the case, if we had it, we probably, I'm going to tell you, I overlooked it. I didn't see that. But anyway, that's what we're going to do. We're going to get the price for it and get back with Steve on it. And then also we're going to discuss probably at our next meeting, the issue with Anderson Lane, and then it'll go forward, and then we'll alert the board of what we want, what's going to happen. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
may I make another request? In the process of getting the Hidden Point estimate, I would like to just get an estimate for Glen Oaks as well, just so that we have that as a comparison.
Can you do that, Marshall?
Yes, sir. I can do that.
And since we're getting estimates, can we just go ahead and get an estimate from Gates to the Drakes Creek Marina on Saunders Ferry to see what the entire stretch of that would cost to pave? I'd like to know myself. Thank you.
Okay, got it.
So does this ordinance need to be acted upon tonight, or Marshall, or can we wait until a month for the next meeting?
It still has to go through 2 readings at BOMA, but we can postpone it to the next Public Works Committee meeting. I mean,
Have we received the money?
yes, yeah, it's the check is in the bank, so to speak. But we just have to be able to spend it. We just have to go through the process to appropriate it.
Of an appropriation.
Right.
Yes, sir, Mr. Campbell.
I think we ought to just go ahead and move, pass the ordinance to accept the money, put it in our fund, and then at a later date, we can move it wherever we need to.
All right, well, let's do that. And let me, and then what we'll do with it tonight is alert the board of what we're doing.
Yes.
I second.
All right, there's, I don't know if Steve is already gone or not,
He's there.
because I think that's this ward, and Anderson Park in Ward 4.
Ward 5.
Ward 5. Ward 5, okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm assuming that's Jonathan, is that correct?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
How you doing, bud?
Doing well. Thank
Good.
you. Please
All
take
right.
care of Anderson Road, please.
Gotcha.
Line it up.
We will, yeah, it's kind of, I think it's looking where it's going, but anyway, all the aldermen will have to make their plays if you get my drift, but I've got a feeling that's probably where it's got to go. All right, there's been a proper motion and a proper second. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor say yes when I call the roll, or no. Alderman Campbell,
Yes.
Alderman Robertson,
Yes.
and chair votes aye. It passes unanimously. So we're on our way. That will be at the Board of Aldermen in 2 weeks. Our next agenda item is number
7.
7. Oh, yes, the resolution 2020-48. It's a resolution.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right. There's been a proper motion and a proper second. I thank the committee. We'll go ahead and with accepting and appropriating well, I don't know. It went away. Hold on just a second. I've got to go back to it. What the motion?
Surplus property and direct disposal of same.
Yeah, what's the resolution number? Does anybody know?
2020-48.
2020-48. Okay, there's been a proper motion, a proper second. Any further discussion on the issue? Hearing none. Everyone ready to vote? All in favor, signify by saying aye or no when I call the roll. Alderman Campbell,
Aye.
Alderman Robertson,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye itself. So it passes unanimously on to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Does that go to any other committee, or does it just go straight to the board? Does anybody know? I can't remember. It doesn't matter.
I think it's on finance as well.
Yes, okay. All right. Okay, now we are at 2027. An
So
ordinance.
moved.
Oh,
So moved.
all right. I need a second. Pat?
Second.
All right, there's been a proper motion, and proper second on the motion for, just go one, okay, ordinance 2020-27, which is an ordinance accepting and appropriating a donation in the amount of $400 from the orthodontics, Morris Orthodontics. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Is everyone ready to vote? All in favor say aye or no when I call the roll by voice vote here. Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Robertson.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It passes unanimously. So that will go on to both finance and the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Okay, our next one is ordinance 2020-31, an ordinance to authorize amendment to budget ordinance 2020-20. Sort of like y'all remember the group Tony. Well, that's 2020-20. Okay, that's another private joke, but okay. Maybe next year we'll get it. let's see. Okay, if you can bring that down just a little bit. Oh my gosh. Okay, ordinance 2020. Oh, that's not it. Okay, there it is. An ordinance to authorize an amendment to the budget ordinance to appropriate monies into a new account for transportation related improvements on Drake Creek Road.
So moved.
Second.
All right. And if you want to discuss that just a little bit, Marshall.
Absolutely. And Chairman, we've received, obviously we've been receiving payments from the subdivisions at Durham Farms, Fountain Brook, Norman Creek, and Ivy Point for several years now. And finance has accumulated those payments in a reserve account. And as a bill to spend those, obviously we have to appropriate those funds. And this is the process by which we need to spend money to begin the process to build a roundabout at the end of Durham Farms. And that's kind of described in the first whereas, but the money is intended to go towards the survey, design, and construction of that facility. And this will put us a lot closer to meeting our goal to finish that project. So, and I do want to point out that that the money will also, we're looking at the intersections of Long Hollow and Drakes Creek, when they make that connection, and also the intersection at New Shackle and Drakes Creek. And so the first priority will be the roundabout, and then the second and third will be those two intersections.
All righty. Is the fire chief here? Well, before I discuss his, there's all right, questions. There's been a motion and a second. Questions from the committee? Anybody? Is the fire chief here still? You may be gone.
Yes, sir. No, sir. I'm here.
Oh, okay. Does this help you guys out at all a lot in terms of the trucks? You know?
What's that, sir? As far as the money that we're talking about for the road, is that what you're asking,
Yes.
sir?
Right.
That would be if you guys voted to do that with some of the money. I'm not sure. I think the way that is designed, and Marshall may be able to feed more into that, is just for that to help with the roadway situations out there. I don't think it
I
can be
didn't
moved.
know.
I don't think it can be moved for apparatus or anything like that. But correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody or Marshall.
Yeah, that's you're correct, Chief. The entitlements and obviously the plat has notes on it that kind of designate the intent of those payments, and they were for and are for improvements on Drakes Creek Road.
All right. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Is everybody ready to vote? All in favor of ordinance 2020-31 with these changes, signify by saying aye or no when I call your on a roll call vote. Alderman Campbell,
Aye.
Alderman Roberson,
Aye.
chair votes aye itself. It passes unanimously on to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. We've got, let's see here, let me look and see what we've got here left. We're moving really good tonight, and I appreciate the board moving like this. A lot of
It's a number.
okay, now we've got the 2020-29 ordinance appropriating funds from the Anderson Park per lot
That's the one we've already completed for Steve.
for Anderson Park.
Correct. I thought we'd already.
Yeah, we
I
did.
thought
We did that
We'd
one.
already voted on that.
We jumped down to it when we were discussing.
Oh, that's right. That for Steve.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, many apologies, committee. I certainly apologize for that.
Now we're at
Don't
number
don't
11.
normally do that, but we're doing so well.
We're at number 11.
Monthly trash update.
Well, no, we got one more appropriation to get through.
Number 11.
Yeah. 2020 ordinance 2020-30.
All right, an ordinance to authorize amendment to budget ordinance 2020 and appropriating performance bond funds from the general fund reserve account.
Second.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. You want to discuss this a little bit?
Alderman Skidmore, could I mention something?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. We have a proposal from a Eagle Scout candidate to do some significant work of landscaping in front of the city court building. And if you've been, Old City Hall, and if you've been up there, It looks pretty awful. He wants to create that into a small plaza to recognize our five fallen police officers. And his budget is in the neighborhood of $10,000, $11,000. Can we designate $5,000 of this to go to that project, since it is our property and it is something that's we really should be doing anyway? And I'd certainly defer to Marshall and his thoughts of that.
Yes, I have some ideas on how we could do that.
Okay.
I may need to talk to Robert kind of at a separate time to kind of find out if what I'm thinking is correct. But I think the idea of what we have before you is that the surety is leftover surety funds from the Streets of Indian Lake project. And I think technically it has to go towards that, but if we replace those funds into one of our accounts and move those funds somewhere else, I think we'll be able to accomplish that. Let me, if you don't mind, we have to go through the process to appropriate this money. But if you give me a little bit of time to speak with our finance director, I think we may be able to find a way to do that.
I think it'd be wonderful. I mean, I sort of look at it the way as a grant program. If we provide $5,000, we're going to get $10,000 to $11,000 worth of work.
Right. Yeah. I'll speak with Robert tomorrow about this and find out if there's a way to do it.
Thanks, Marshall.
All righty. Chief Bush, I saw you waving your pencil. Did you, or was that you tapping, or just, you're good? Okay. All right, let's go ahead. And is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, is everybody ready to vote? Okay, there's been a motion made on ordinance 2020. Excuse me? Oh, that's not us. Okay.
Yeah.
2020-30. All in favor signify by saying aye or no when the roll call vote. Alderman, I'm gonna switch it up. Alderman Roberson.
Aye.
Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. It passes unanimously on to the board. Is there any discussion on anything under additional items at all? Because I think, the monthly trash update, we got to do that.
Let me, I'm going to share with you a new, kind of a new screen. Hang on a second.
Okay.
Let's see if I can figure this out. Let's see.
Marshall, the easiest way to do that is just to stop sharing completely and then start a new share.
Okay. How do I? Are y'all able to see this, my screen?
Yes.
Does it show a chart with a bunch of lines on it? Okay. What you have before you is the monthly, all of July, most of August. We've been tracking the number of misses, and obviously there towards the middle and end of July, we had some pretty high numbers, and since then, obviously, I've been giving you daily updates as the number of misses, but we've come down drastically from where we were about a month ago. I just wanted to hopefully present this in such a way that can kind of display that. But and I plan to do this every month at the Public Works Committee. I'll bring this before you just to kind of show you how we're doing.
Well, it's a lot better than what it was. I can assure you of that.
Mm-hmm.
And Marshall, in the contract, 50 is kind of the bogey.
I got you.
Yes, sir. It's 50 misses over the course of a week.
So they haven't had 50 misses in a long time, have they?
Right. It's been several weeks. Since they've had that.
I'm not getting any complaints. So congratulations and thanks to Waste Pro.
Yeah, they're fully staffed and they've got all their guys back. So it's a pretty good situation right now.
All right. Ms. Petrelli, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Chairman Skidmore.
Yes, ma'am.
Marshall, first of all, I would like to thank you for all the reports that you've given us regarding waste pickup, and I appreciate Waste Pro putting a plan of action together quickly. If you remember, probably about 2 weeks ago, I emailed you and said, what specifically is the process for handling if there was a breach of contract? Because there's been a lot of information put in social media claiming that the CA has to enforce this. Can you kind of explain for everybody's benefit how you look at the numbers, and that if you determined something was amiss, you would then go to the city attorney and to the CA at that point for a discussion?
Yeah, so let me, I got my email brought up that I gave you that day. I'll read, read from that.
Thank you.
And so we record misses every day and disseminate that information to Waste Pro. The reporting software that we use allows Waste Pro to obtain that information as soon as it is entered. And we try our best to discern if the information we receive from residents is actually a miss. But there are situations where Waste Pro is not at fault. For example, some residents think we still have twice a week service, or that they can have loose garbage in the can at the back door.
Sure.
In order to verify a miss, additional time is needed from Public Works staff as well as Waste Pro staff. Once the number of misses are verified, then that number could be used to determine if the contract threshold is exceeded. I'm trying to, let's see. Based on the language in the contract, I believe a breach of contract regarding misses or any other item would involve a conversation with the city administrator, city attorney, and the public works director. That was the end of the.
Thank you. That's what I was just trying to get to, that you would be the first source of indication of, hey, we've got an issue going on, and then it would result in a discussion with the city administrator.
All right.
Correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you so much, Marshall. Thank you, Chairman.
You got it. No problem. We're here to please. We're here to help everybody. Let's see here. Is there anybody else that has any discussion, or I just have a couple of things to do real
Number
brief.
9, we skipped number 9 on our list here, Mary's Magical Place flood plan review.
All right, let's talk about that. Go ahead, Marshall.
Hang on, I'm gonna.
Number 9. Thank you, Alderman Campbell.
Sure.
I think the reason why I'm missing a couple of those because I don't have my suit on.
Are y'all able to see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what you have before you is the site plan for Mary's Magical Place, and
Right.
Of course we've had this for for a little while, but our consultants working with Parks Department, Andy and his staff have come up with a kind of a plan of building a berm around Mary's Magical Place to help protect that facility in times of, obviously it won't stop water from getting into the facility, but the rushing water that it has experienced lately, it'll help stop that. And it's kind of hard to tell, but the lines, the contours, represent a berm around that facility. And then also it also shows the old inline hockey rinks that being turned into an athletic field. And so we're working right now. I put in a check request for some money to submit with an application to FEMA. They need to begin the review of the application, but we are making progress on that. And of course, Andy obviously is working with the inline hockey to try to move that forward as well. But we just wanted to kind of let you know we are making progress, and it's an update and kind of show you what what has been developed. And if you have any questions, if I can't answer it, I'll be sure to get with our consultant and ask them.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, sir.
This creek that this is supposed to help flows through Wessington Place, and down through Ward 6. Will this berm put more water on those residents downstream?
That's what the engineers that we've hired, they've had to do a no rise, certification, and essentially a drainage, flood study to make sure that we're not adversely affecting, your properties upstream or downstream. And so that's a part of what they've done is they've confirmed that this is not, it does not impact those properties any more than it already is now.
I have heard staff say that the reason that we're having so much water problems at this park is because of development upstream. And so I just wonder, with this berm, what kind of flood protection will it provide? I know that a common term is the 100-year floodplain that is supposed to protect that there's one event every 100 years.
Okay.
So what will this berm increase the protection of Mary's Magical Place? Is it 50-year floodplain, or how does it improve that statistic?
Andy, do you remember what that number is? I off the top of my head, I cannot remember what that is, but I can certainly find out and report back to you.
I believe 2010, I think, was that a 100-year or a 1,000-year flood?
I think 1,000, either 500 or 1,000 year.
Yeah, nothing's going to protect what we had in 2010.
Yeah.
What we had in 2019 was a 50-year flood.
Yeah.
And if this would have, like Marshall said, it still would have got wet, but it would not have had rushing water that separated the concrete from the fence and took other parts of the playground out. So I can't answer the 100-year part. I know it would have protected the 50-year part from rushing water. I could guess to say 100 years, but we can get you a more specific answer as we move forward. We're not ready to build it tomorrow, so we got plenty of time.
So Andy, will the playground sustain just standing water on it? I mean, is it the rushing water that causes all the damage?
Right. The rushing water is what causes the damage. If water gets in there, and I mean, we have water get in the baseball fields and things. If it's just sitting there, we can pump water out and we can clean. But when it rushes over it, that's when it basically just picks up the flooring and moves it. And that's what causes all the damage.
All right, Alderman Waters, did you have a question? You're unmuted.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, can somebody help Mr. Waters?
Turn your mic on, Mr. Waters. There you go.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay, I want to discuss the last item on your agenda,
All right.
if we got time.
Sure. We might have already, but we can always go back if you need to.
We have about two minutes left, Chairman, before we have to be
Okay.
out.
All right. Well, I don't think we've already discussed all my things that I had. We've got like 2 minutes. So Jim, do you know, I mean, what is it exactly?
Marshall put up the last item, wasn't it about trash? I don't think we discussed that at all.
Yes, sir, we did.
Sir, we did.
Huh?
We did.
I think we started and but we don't have the time.
Okay.
Let me just briefly say, my cohort mentioned just a minute ago about he liked the numbers. He didn't have any complaints. Well, welcome to my world. I spent all day Saturday with four people over there here in Ward 6. So no, the numbers are not good. But again, we don't have the time to go. I don't have the time to go through what I want to talk about, Mr. Chairman. So with your permission, can I bring it up at Boma in your report?
Under my report? Yes. Yes, sir, you may. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
let me do that because I think I take up too much time right here. Okay.
Okay, yes, sir, by all means.
Okay.
And I'll
Thank you.
notify the board as well that you're going to be speaking, if that's okay.
Well, I'll just ask you if I can follow up on your report. That's it.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Mr. Chairman, I see that the city administrator just joined us. I wonder if he has anything he'd like to add before we close off.
Yeah,
Hello, David, you have anything?
yeah, the only thing that I had was, I came in at the Mary's Magical Place. That was the 100-year flood. And the Corps of Engineers, of course, has done some more surveying and moved the lines a little differently. So it's in the 50-year flood now. So, but at the time it was in the 100-year flood when it flooded and took it out completely. It was in the 50-year flood, Eddie, when it took the concrete out in Mary's Magical Place. So basically, since that creek over the bridge leaving, I mean, the entrance ramp coming on from Indian Lake up in there, 8 or 9 feet of debris has caused what we now see is the overflow onto the hockey rinks and Mary's Magical Place.
All right, thank you very much. Any other? I believe we're about through.
One second, Mr. Chairman. I just want to point out about trash real quick. If you take 18,500 houses times 4.3, which would be a month, it's 79,550 garbage, houses that are serviced in that period. And if you're doing 50 a month, 50 misses a week, that's 215 per month. Not even 1% misses. So I just wanted to know where we're getting at with our numbers. I realize there's perfect is 0, but we're close. Thank you.
We're striving for that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alderman Campbell. Thank you, Alderman Roberson, and thank you, fellow members of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, the mayor, and everyone else who was in attendance this evening. We actually completed our first agenda of the year. I can't believe it. We probably completed 2 or 3 before, but so excellent job, committee. I guess we'll see you here in about an hour.
Need a motion to adjourn.
And I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
There we are.